Here's the reasons why I haven't given up when it comes to XCN, even though nothing I say is financial advice, and even though this is just my personal perspective and my perception, and I am not telling anyone to do anything. But again, why are the reasons I haven't given up, basically? Because, quite frankly, it would be pretty easy for me to give up when it comes to Onyx because I could just easily exit, right? But why haven't I done that? Well, it's because sometimes I take a look back what it's done historically speaking. For instance, I take a look at what XCN was back in January. The market cap was pretty well below 100 million and it wasn't really doing much. And, a lot of people thought, okay, who's really going to care about this? Now, personally, for me, I was dollar cost averaging into XCN at that time, and I was probably thinking, okay, it might take quite a while. Then suddenly, we saw in January, in mid-January, I would say, in around 2 weeks, basically, it went from a market cap of around 80 million to a billion. Again, pretty much around 14 days. We're not talking about 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Again, that was literally less than 3 weeks. And it did that. Now, of course, granted, the pullback's also been pretty drastic ever since then, but at the same time as well, the way you take a look at it is that it kind of showcases how within this space, sometimes things don't take like a year or 2 years to really make those type of moves in some cases. And sure, as of right now, the market cap is having a pullback and also the price, of course, but I'm saying even as of right now, with a market cap of around 190 million, it's still starting off better than where it did back then at around that $80 million range before it had that rally. So it's a little bit more of a higher base, I would say, right, compared to back then. Could it go lower? I mean, in theory, hypothetically, who knows, right? Because I can't control the market. But at the same time as well, the way you take a look at it is there's going to be a point eventually where people just don't want to exit anymore. What is that point going to be? I have no clue. But at the same time, I'm still staying patient because I saw what it did not too long ago. And it didn't take like a year or 2 years to do that, that sort of movement. And that was not even during an altcoin season. Will it do that moving forward? Who knows? I can't control that. But just seeing that right there, I think a little bit showcases to me that there seems to be a little bit of some attention, I would say, even without an altcoin season, for projects that seem to be a little bit of a miniature version, the way you take a look at it, just to put an analogy of like XLM, or should I say Stellar. It just kind of feels like there's somewhat of this emergence of projects that kind of feel like it has that type of vibe, but then with just a way lower market cap. Because we take a look at some of the ones that are beginning to emerge, right? I would say something like XDC, XCN, something like ZBCN, or should I say SEBIC. There's also something like SwiftCoin, XPR. And what do they all have in common as of right now? Their market cap is well below 2 billion currently. So they all don't really have that massive a market cap. They're not all that well known, but we've seen them do pretty okay during the cycle, even without altcoin season. So I think it might have showcased a little bit that, sure, there's been historically two major players within this space. For instance, right, we take a look at Stellar being one of them. But then at the same time, now there's beginning to be some of these alternatives that have kind of emerged. So I still haven't forgotten about that when it comes to some of the Onyx. And sure, it may be easy for me to not think about that right now because the price isn't doing the best. But at the same time, I haven't forgotten about that. I often remind myself of why I got into Onyx in the first place. It was just because I thought it was a pretty cool project that's focused on payments, generally speaking, and as well as global trade finance. A market niche, I would say, that doesn't historically have that many competitors. If we think about it, what's really competing against Stellar? You know what I mean? For that number 2 spot within this space. Kind of nothing, actually, in my opinion. For quite a while, it felt like, at least. But now there's beginning to be some that are emerging. So when it comes to that, I like how there's, again, some other alternatives beginning to emerge in a space, or should I say market sector, which historically doesn't originally have that many competitors to begin with. So I do like that. And not to mention as well, when I take a look at it, I feel like ever since I started holding Onyx, the fundamentals seem to have improved. Now, when it comes to the price ever since January, or should I say February, I mean, it hasn't really been doing the best, of course, but I'm saying, in terms of fundamentals, I feel like actually ever since then, it's beginning to improve because launching the testnet of their Layer 1 blockchain, is that, in the grand scheme of things, kind of an impressive thing? I would say yeah, because other projects out there, once they experience a pretty good rally, they don't really put anything back to the project. It just feels like they don't care anymore. They're just pretty happy that, The project had a rally and that's it. But again, even just having that mindset of launching Goliath, their layer one blockchain, at least a testnet, it still kind of showcases to me that the team still cares about the project. Sure, it's not the most revolutionary thing of all time. Is it reinventing the wheel? Absolutely not. Is it the coolest thing of all time? No. But for what Onyx is, for the size of the project, for where it once was not too long ago, it's a pretty impressive achievement that they still even bothered to do that in the first place, right? Because easily they could have not done that and no one would really, I think, care too much. It's not like when I was first holding Onyx, people were saying, we need the testnet this year or something. I mean, I didn't really hear much of that at all, actually, at least in my case. Launching a layer one blockchain, at least a testnet, it's still a pretty commendable thing, I think, considering how they didn't necessarily have to do that. Not to mention, they're still planning to launch actually the mainnet next year. They say it's Q1 of next year, but who knows? I'll have to wait and see. But I'm just saying, when it comes to that, it is still pretty, I think, cool and interesting. And also, not to mention, when I take a look at their layer one blockchain, right? The aspect of EVM is something I'm also a fan of. Again, Ethereum virtual machine. Ethereum is just a very popular layer one blockchain. Onyx is nowhere near as popular as Ethereum, and in my opinion, it's never going to be as popular as something like that. But I just like seeing that nonetheless, because some of their projects out there, they don't want to have an aspect of, you know, Ethereum virtual machine for whatever reason, which in some cases I think is a little bit counterintuitive because, come on, I mean, are they ever going to overtake Ethereum? Most likely not, right? So the way you take a look at it is that when I see a project at least incorporating something like that, I do find it pretty interesting and I do find that pretty unique. XCN isn't the only thing I'm holding, but it is one of my pieces in my portfolio because, again, when it comes to the space of payments and global chain finance, I feel like there's not that many famous or compelling options for me to begin with, like I mentioned earlier on the video. So that's why I do want to hold it, but I am not telling anyone to do anything. Now, personally, for me, am I still going to be dollar cost averaging into XCN? The answer is yes, but not at all like that. You know what I mean? Like, of course, I'm doing it on an incremental basis because, I mean, I'm not going to know how low this is going to go, right? Like, I'm also not going to know how long this is going to go on for. I don't know when there's going to be an altcoin season. So all I can do is just, again, control myself. And I'm just dollar cost averaging once a month because I'm never going to be able to know the perfect time. So that's why I'm just dollar cost averaging once a month, even though I'm not telling you to anything. But those are basically the reasons why I haven't given up when it comes to Onyx. I still like the fundamentals, I still like the presence, and I'm still a fan of the project. So, yeah, those are the reasons why I'm still holding. But ultimately, I'm just waiting. I mean, that's about it. It's kind of like watching paint dry sometimes because some people think it's very boring. But, what can I do about it? All I can do is just stay patient, I guess. And yeah, that's pretty much about it. And I want to say thank you for watching. I hope you all have a nice day. It's been Lee the Captain, and I'll catch you all on the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.